it turned out, evinced a much more serious problem. 2 days after his abbreviated start, the Angels announced that Ohtani had suffered a grade 2 sprain of his right ulnar collateral ligament, an injury that's often a precursor to Tommy John surgery. The Angels, of course, hoped to avoid reconstructive surgery, and Ohtani, who was promptly placed on the injured list, was initially prescribed rest and treatment. Still, his rookie season on the mound was likely finished, and there was a very real possibility that he could be limited to DH duties for the foreseeable future. Yet, even with his elbow compromised and that cloud hanging over him, Ohtani continued to shine as the Angels' DH. After returning from the injured list, Ohtani was one of the best hitters in the American League over the final 3 months of the season, posting an OPS north of 900 from early July onward. Along the way, however, Ohtani's worst fears about his elbow were realized. After experiencing renewed discomfort in his elbow during his return to the mound in September, an MRI revealed new ligament damage. Eventually, it was decided that Tommy John surgery was necessary, a procedure that would keep Ohtani off the mound for the entirety of the 2019 season. It was a hard pill to swallow, but the consolation was that Ohtani would still be able to hit throughout his recovery. And that disappointing setback notwithstanding, Ohtani's rookie season was still one for the ages. All told, he put up a .925 OPS and smacked 22 home runs as the Angels' DH and authored a .331 ERA with a 30% strikeout rate across his 10 starts on the mound. In the process, he not only cruised to an American League Rookie of the Year award, but he made history, becoming the first player since the Babe in 1919 to hit 15 or more homers while logging at least 50 innings pitched in a season. Incidentally, his greatness wasn't enough to help the listless Angels snap their playoff drought. In fact, even with Ohtani's brilliance and Trout's continuing magnificence, the Angels finished with a losing record in 2018, marking the beginning of a head-shaking pattern. Still, despite the elbow injury and the Angels' disappointing record, Ohtani's rookie season was nothing short of indelible. He had proven conclusively that he could excel as a two-way player at baseball's highest level. And even though detractors invoked his elbow injury to argue that he should follow in the Babe's footsteps and give up on pitching altogether, Ohtani was unfazed. That said, it would be a while before Ohtani returned to the Angels' rotation in any meaningful capacity. A long while. Following his Tommy John surgery, which has a recovery timetable of 12 to 18 months for pitchers, he spent the entire 2019 campaign limited to DH duties. Still, he was a damn fine DH, smashing 18 homers with an OPS of nearly .850, plus a team-high 12 stolen bases, before knee surgery ended his season in mid-September. And although 2020 was supposed to mark his triumphant return to two-way status, Ohtani's much-anticipated return to the mound was nothing short of a disaster. After giving up 5 runs and failing to record an out in his first big league start in almost 2 full years, Ohtani made just one more dismal outing on the mound before his elbow problems resurfaced. His ligament was fine, but Ohtani had strained his flexor pronator mass, an injury that would relegate him to DH-only duties for the remainder of the pandemic-shortened campaign. And, to make matters worse, Ohtani was a mess at the plate over that 60-game sprint, hitting just .190 for another mediocre Angels team. Heading into the 2021 season, Ohtani found himself in something of an identity crisis. He was 2 years removed from being a two-way player in earnest and was coming off an offensive season that he himself characterized as pathetic. His critics had more ammunition than ever to discredit him, and even fair-minded fans had reason to wonder what exactly he was.
He had the arm surgery, the elbow surgery. That's what makes me nervous. I have one of the great power hitters in the game. I want to make sure I have him in the lineup. As much as I love the duality there, that he can go on the mound and he can be our best pitcher, but I still want to make sure he's in the lineup. If anything happens to that arm again, now I've taken him out of the lineup. We might see an unbelievable season by Shohei Ohtani, but we won't see him in the fall.
In 2021, however, Ohtani made it abundantly clear what he is once and for all. And that's a freaking unicorn. That year, with his elbow trouble finally behind him and the pandemic irregularities in the rearview mirror, Ohtani turned in the most mind-boggling season in modern baseball history. For the first time in his big league career, Ohtani was allowed to hit for himself on days he pitched and was in the lineup almost every single day, and he rewarded the Angels' faith in him by essentially becoming superhuman. First, the offensive numbers. In 155 games in the Angels' lineup, Ohtani racked up 46 homers, 80 extra base hits, 103 runs, 100 RBIs, 26 stolen bases, and an OPS of .965. By weighted runs created plus, a comprehensive offensive metric that adjusts for park effects, he was the second best hitter in the American League and the fifth best hitter in all of baseball. Unlike Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bryce Harper, however, Ohtani also dominated on the mound. Across his 23 starts in 2021, Ohtani recorded a 3.18 ERA, 109 WHIP, and 156 strikeouts in 130 and a third innings. He was simultaneously Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole. It defied words. It defied history. Or rather, it was history.
Shohei! No way! Leadoff home run.
Shohei running wild on the base path.
Six stolen bases down with 7 attempts.
Here's Austin Meadows now. The first pitch. Shot. I mean, that's a run.
Sorry, bro. I'm just too coordinated to not make that play.
Oh, go! Oh, wow. Where did that one go?
Ohtani not only set countless records in 2021 as he solidified himself as the game's most compelling player, but he also memorably batted leadoff and started on the mound for the American League All-Stars. Never before had a player been selected to pitch and hit in the Midsummer Classic. Naturally, he was named All-Star Game MVP, and that was just one of the innumerable honors Ohtani received that year. He also earned his first career Silver Slugger Award, a Commissioner's Historic Achievement Award, and an American League MVP award in a unanimous vote. This performance in 2021 was so transcendent, in fact, that the league made a new rule to make Ohtani as visible as possible. Ahead of the 2022 campaign, the league implemented the so-called Ohtani rule, which allows any pitcher who bats for himself to remain in the game at DH after he's removed from the mound. The rule underscored the fact that Ohtani is must-see TV, and the two-way sensation only reaffirmed that in 2022. In the wake of his unprecedented MVP season, Ohtani was a monster once again. A top 10 hitter and a top 10 pitcher who, for the first time in his big league career, threw enough innings to qualify for the ERA title. In fact, Ohtani finished sixth among qualified starters with a microscopic 2.33 ERA and ultimately came in fourth in American League Cy Young voting. Meanwhile, he also repeated as an All-Star and a Silver Slugger winner, and were it not for Aaron Judge's historic 62-homer season, Ohtani surely would have repeated as AL MVP. Once again, however, just as they had for the first 4 seasons of his career, the Angels finished below 500 and well out of the playoff race. And as the 2022 season concluded, with Ohtani suddenly 1 year away from becoming a free agent, the relentlessly uncompetitive Angels had to wrestle with the unthinkable. Should they trade their once-in-a-lifetime superstar and by far the game's most marketable star for the sake of their future? In the very early days of the offseason, however, Los Angeles gave a most emphatic answer. No, the Angels GM said, we're not trading Ohtani, who, by the way, appeared in his first World Baseball Classic that same offseason and proceeded to take home tournament MVP honors, leading Japan to a championship and capping their title run with an iconic, title-stealing strikeout of none other than his most decorated Angels teammate.
Ohtani's ready. Trout's ready. 3-2. Struck him out. Ohtani strikes out Trout, and Japan's back on top of the baseball world.
Meanwhile, with the 2023 season looming, the Angels tried to cobble together a supporting cast that could allow Ohtani and Trout to make one playoff appearance together in Anaheim. But while their efforts were ultimately and predictably unsuccessful, the Angels' 73-89 finish in 2023 can't be pinned on Ohtani. For the third year in a row, Ohtani starred on both sides of the ball, smacking 44 homers with a league-leading 1066 OPS while continuing to dominate on the mound. His Herculean efforts earned him his second unanimous AL MVP award in a 3-year span and made him the first player ever to be a unanimous MVP twice. In doing so, he also solidified himself as the most attractive free agent in the history of the league, one bound to shatter the previous record for baseball's biggest contract. And although a late-season elbow injury added more risk to his profile and will keep him off the mound until 2025, it did nothing to dampen the intensity of the Ohtani free agency sweepstakes. Just like in 2017, every team wanted him, except this time around, not every team could afford him. Still, Ohtani's free agency was a wild ride, a process that practically drove the baseball world to madness as it tried to sift through the tidbits of credible information, the unconfirmed meetings, the misinformation, even the flight logs. Memorably, late in In the process, after Ohtani had narrowed his list of potential destinations down to just a handful, a reported agreement between Ohtani and the Toronto Blue Jays sent baseball fans everywhere into a delirium. Ultimately, however, that report proved to be false, and in the end, as many had long predicted, the 29-year-old superstar decided to take his talents to Los Angeles. Well, the other side of Los Angeles. On December 9th, 2023, Ohtani announced on his Instagram page that he was signing with the Los Angeles Dodgers, joining a historic franchise that happens to be baseball's winningest team for the last decade and a half. And although it was a foregone conclusion that his contract would be unprecedented, his 10-year deal worth a reported $700 million blew well past even the loftiest projections. While his contract includes a substantial amount of deferred money, bringing its present-day value down significantly, that $700 million figure is still $250 million higher than Patrick Mahomes' $450 million contract, which was previously the largest in North American sports history. That whopping number, however, is a testament to how unprecedented and unrivaled Ohtani is, both as a talent and as an attraction. He's single-handedly reshaped what baseball greatness looks like. And while it remains to be seen whether the second act of his big league career is as sublime as the first, his hallowed place in baseball history is already assured. Shohei Ohtani is impossible personified, unlike any player before him, and in all likelihood, any player to come. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button.